That's good.
All right. Now, in the apparatus of running a high-speed lathe, there's an automatic chuck on this. At all times while this is running, there should be an implement in the chuck. If you forget, you can fry the clutch and it ruins the whole unit. So you have to make sure there's always something in there when it's shut off. But in this particular motor, it says faculty only. Don't even touch it.
What does that mean?
It means faculty.
Do we have that?
Faculty.
Faculty.
Almost faculty.
Yeah, okay.
Faculty.
Honorary.
My middle name is Faculty, no.
Okay, so anyway,
Kidding.
when we cast our frames, they come out looking something like this.
We hope.
Well, they will. If you'll notice, you have a lot of bubbles and parts on here.
Yes.
Now, if you do not follow this procedure that I'm going to tell you, you will not come out with a successful finished frame. You have to do it in the steps I tell you. If you skip a step, it doesn't work. So you have to make sure you follow every one of the details that we're going to demonstrate. After we recover it, knock it out, tap the button, get all the investment off. We take this over, we put it in the sandblaster. I put this in the automatic sandblaster for 3 minutes, excuse me, and it cleaned it all off pretty nice. It took a lot of the oxide layers off of it, but not all. So what it didn't take off, we're going to have to remove when we start to grind.
And that was just in the tumble mode?
Yes, it was in the tumble. Now, if I left some spots that it didn't catch it, I have to go back in here and hit it and make sure I get them off, the smaller spots. Yeah.
What tools are you setting aside for yourself to use?
I've got the heatless stones, cut-off discs, barrel stones. I have a 701. I'm not going to do the rubbering at this stage. We're just getting the framework finished. And I have all kinds of small barrel stones in here available that I can use to get into areas where I couldn't reach with a regular stone. Now we have some inverted cones I have in here. Yeah, okay. All right, so now what I'm going to try and do is I am going to touch every part of this frame with a stone, except for my mesh. I don't have to do any of the mesh or saddle works. The reason why I don't have to do this, they're all going to be embedded in acrylic. So if there's bubbles and nodules on the meshwork, I leave them. As long as they're not sticking up real high. They're not going to be interfering with
It's
anything.
going to be unseen
Yeah.
when the acrylic goes over it.
Now, before you even get started, when I start this case, I'm going to use a very large disc. This is the big discs. This is worn down a little bit already right now. But when I put this in here, I'm going to cut off every bit of bubble or flash that I do not want on this frame with this disc. If I sat there and did it with a little barrel stone or a little grinder like this, I'd be there 9 hours and 50 minutes trying to get them off. It will not take it off. So I'm going to use the big wheel and the implement. Slide it in all the way. Remember, every time you put an implement in the high-speed lathe, you have to slide it all the way in to the channel. See, it goes all the way into here and touches. If it doesn't go all the way in, when you turn this on, it'll start waving like this and it'll snap and hit you. It'll break right off. So you have to make sure it's in there for a safety feature. All right, now I'm going to, when I turn this on, you're not going to be able to hear me. That's why I'm trying to explain much of it to you up front. I have a bowl of water available, because periodic, when I start grinding this, it gets extremely hot, and I have to dip it to cool it off. At no point will I cut these sprues off until I'm ready to cut them off, because I want to do all the bulk grinding before, so I have something to hang on to.
Support.
And it supports it from warping. This, at all times as we heat it, it has a tendency to close, to shrink. So we have to make sure we keep this rigidly fastened while we do the grinding.
It's going to shrink?
It warps, it bends from the heat. If you ever heat metal, it bends.
Yeah,
It bends.
So it bends like that.
Now, I'm going to wear glasses because
Because you should
can't
always
see.
wear safety goggles.
yeah, and I can't see either. And you're probably going to say, oh, you can't see.
Did you see those new glasses I have, as seen on TV, 160 magnification?
160?
Yes. I'm going to look for them at Rite Aid and stuff.
What in God's name would I do with that?
I'd be able to see my anatomy.
Funny.
Okay,
Do
now,
you want me to put this
turn
on?
the vacuum on now. Now, there's another good thing. We're going to use a vacuum on this today because just recently I found out I'm really sick from grinding this without vacuum for 50 years.
You probably have more particles in your
I do, in my lungs. I have COPD, and it was from rubber dust and grinding. And you hear me cough. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to take the motor and I'm going to turn it on. And I don't skip around either. I'll start at one spot and kind of go around without eliminating areas that I was working on. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start by pressing on this, and you'll see I have to press pretty hard. And I can grind these right off. One at a time. You see how that turns cherry red? Now, if I make a mistake and slip, these are cut off. The clasps are cut off, which is no good. We did the frame the other day, Sienna's frame. And that was the first one I did since they had opened our surgery. It was a little difficult for me because I couldn't fit my hands under it. I don't know if my hands got big or what. But the other lathes are more room under the motor. Now I want to show you what I'm doing here. This is, right now I spent maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get this one little bubble off here. You know something? When I do my frames in real life, I make sure I don't have any bubbles on it.
And how do you do that?
By doing all the steps properly, right when you get right from the start. Now these were caused by the patterns lifting a little bit, these bubbles.
Does that mean that?
That means after we put them on, they weren't, this was set for like 3 weeks before we invested it. So they had patterns that had a tendency to elevate.
How do you get them not to elevate? I mean, if you just say it sits around for 3
You
days,
put
right?
the adhesive on, and you put the pattern on, make sure it's on real good, then you invest it right that
Right,
day.
and then what if you can invest it right then? Is there a step that you can use to make them stick down again?
Well, I stick the tips down a little bit with wax. But again, you don't want to do that if you don't have to. Now you can use a, no, I won't even tell you that, never mind. Made a mistake.
What are you gonna say?
Well, I double up the barrels or the wheels on it, the tools on the manual, but it's dangerous. I don't want to do that here. You don't do double the grinding. No. Now you have to be real careful with these discs. It's very important you're careful because if a little slip, it's done.
Is it a carbide disc? What kind of?
No, this is aluminum oxide. And this is the one that it smells pretty much when you start grinding on it. This is what it's made of. It's aluminum oxide. That class was okay. Now let's advance to the next one. Now, I finished this class different. Because I'm going to hit the hole this time. I'm not a hole where it's hot. Common sense tells you that. Another big one. Now you can use other stones to take this off, but I think this is faster. You're gonna have to talk louder, what? Oh yeah. Well, some of you will end up taking your class off, which is that happens. I'll hit you with a board. My son that used to do that. Everyone thought he was always in a hurry. Ended up taking the class off. And he goes, Dad, can we weld this?
And did you weld it? Laser?
No, I never had a laser weld. They weren't invented. But
They had fire back then.
I had 2 sticks moving back there.
And you have to use acetylene for that?
Yes, acetylene and oxygen is much more effective. We had the privilege a couple of weeks ago with Carl and me and Steve. I've always tried to weld it with propane and oxygen. And you have to take like a half hour to get it hot enough to, and then it don't flow. It's flowing now. Use 2,700 degrees. So they brought the acetylene in and hooked up the weld in 2 seconds. It was really nice way to flow acetylene. But remember, you cannot use acetylene if you're going to have porcelain on anything. Acetylene makes too much oxide layers, which is not good for ceramic material. Now I gotta get all these. The original border of this is also I trim all the way around. Now a little bit more up here. All the little bits of flash and bubbles, all I have to remove. Another, one more class we'll do and then we're ready to roll. Now these clasps are a little thin, so I'm going to be real careful when I grind this, because I'll take off too much value.
What happens if you do?
You got to put new clasps on. There's nothing more frustrating than getting them all done and having all new clasps on. And when I had the lab going big time and I was doing a lot of work, I always saved the frames. Even when I had to make them over, I would always save the frames for parts. I could always cut the parts out and then wall them onto another frame. We had what we call the graveyard of frames.
You're like the Stephen Hawking's of dental lab technology with the stuff that you come up with.
Well, and believe it
You're
or
a
not,
brilliant mind is what I'm getting.
oh, I thought you were making fun of me.
Yeah,
So you're going to go through that entire piece with that too?
No, I'm done with that now. I just did everything I could at. Right now I've taken off all the bubbles and everything on the class. There's areas I couldn't get in there with that, so I'll have to use a different implement when I get there. Yes. Would you be my motor man there?
I could be your motor mount.
Here's another suggestion. See, I have a bowl of water here,
Yes.
so I can dip it. At the lab, when we do a lot of frames, they'll do 25 of these a day. I made a patty of plaster, a real thick mix of it. I took the bowl and submerged it in part way, so my bowl would never tip over. This tips over really easy, so when I set it there, you'll see it, we dump it. I did that one the other day. I dumped it like 3 times. It usually ends up in your
Do you
lap.
want me to go make you some plastic?
No, it's too late. But I should have had it. There was one floating around here, but
I
I
offered.
probably threw it out. I made one a couple years ago.
Oh, I got what you, okay, yeah.
It's just
okay.
a template to hold it. And if you can use a different Tupperware containers, you can dip in that. Something that don't tip over. This is kind of fragile. You know, again, this is the first part of the disc. We did the disc all the way through. Now,
Why is there only one light bulb on? Does the other one work?
oh, geez, I didn't know that.
Oh, it might not be in.
It's not working.
No, we took it.
It's not working.
I need to sleeve it and put it right on my
I bet you somebody used it.
Did you touch this one?
No, but if they're missing now that I have my own, I
I
might.
didn't know that was out. I have
I
bubbles.
think she switched out the bulbs.
I have bubbles.
I might have some of those at home.
I have some up in the cupboard, I think.
Uh-huh.
These are small. You can
Yeah,
use the big ones.
they're appliance bulbs.
Notice I have a tissue here, and I wipe off this material because it gets all over everything. And I would also suggest this: when you go to work in a lab, if you're a grinder or a finisher, don't wear good clothes. Real good clothes. Keep yourself covered because there's stuff with the acid in the back. If you get that acid on you, it's a hole. At one time, I had that dump on me, and I kept
Where?
working on my crotch, my pants. And I would get ready to leave for the day.
gonna
What
say
the
something,
hell
but
is that? My pants were gone. Half the whole front was missing. It only took like 2 hours.
Before
Anything else missing down there that we
Uh,
should?
Okay, now come here. Now, now, what I just did, I put a missing stone. It's called a heatless stone. I'm going to refer to it as a heatless stone. And this missing stone is a bulk grinder that works pretty good, but it doesn't take a lot of metal off. It's just a small. It's nice. So I'll show you how I can just tweak up the tips of these a little bit more with this.
Is that a two-starter?
Sorry?
Is that, how big is that thing?
It starts off probably about 3/4 of an inch, yeah.
You're gonna put the flap?
yeah, doing the tips of the class and any other little bits of debris that I couldn't get off in a big one. I can't hear Scott when he talks. Yes. Yes, no. Sorry, I can't hear what this vacuum is.
What was your question?
All right, now I'm going to
Are you grinding away the rough parts?
Now I'm going to change to a barrel stone. I can use start off with a large one and just keep reducing it down. And I'm going to take this one here, that large barrel stone, and I'll put it in. And now I'll do all the bulk work with this stone. And you'll see I keep it moving very fast. Like this. Don't slow down. When I slow down, I'll be taking off a little dent or indentation. You keep her moving. Real nice and smooth.
You're taking off like the film or over.
I'm just taking off the oxide layer and I'm blending it. I'm blending everything. If you're, when you wax it, if you had left any layers, there's a little bit of a layer here, this will remove that layer. You can grind it right off. Too many layers, you got a lot of work ahead of you. So you're best off being very careful when you're waxing. You don't need a lot of layers. You gotta make it real smooth. Okay, so the class is all ground. Now, you'll notice that I have a rest on your wax. And when you have rests in the mouth, you'd like to have them a little flush. You don't want to have them sticking up real high so the patient bites on them. You don't want to have them bite on them. But I just take the barrel stone and I just cup this out ever so slightly. Like so. Now I'll do this one over here. You're going to maintain the, now, remember, clasps are tapered. They,
The rest.
oh yeah.
The rest.
Yes, that's right, yes.
How
About a millimeter.
Like Garrett Morris on Saturday Night Live.
The rest. I'm going to have to cut that off because he gets the cut right.
it's better than
Yeah, I know.
if you have a fresh material.
Okay, so now I did this class, now I'm going to cut this one out here. When you're cutting out, you have to hold it real still. Like that. That's 2 down. Now you may know, try commercial ads, when we sell these, we sell for every extra class we add on one. It takes a lot of work. We design it for simplicity first, and then effectiveness second. And function. Again, notice how fast I move it. It's got to be moved. You can't sit still. That's hot. Don't touch your fingers. Put it in the water. Now the rainbow. I don't need any tips or any little indentations that I don't touch. I'm making them all out. That's why I want, when we wax, I want everybody to make sure your wax is real smooth, real neat around the rest. Now the last one I'm going to cut out is just smaller. Now, if you ever destroy the rest or whatever you can do with your stones, sometimes that'll occur. You have to repair them by welding. You have to have platinum foil to little spot.
What tip are you using now?
This is a smaller barrel stone. I got it in here to get that little piece out of it. Okay, so now the clasps are all appropriately drawn. So now I have just the mass of the frame. So if you'll notice, I'm going to take this back out. I'm going to put the heater stone on here. And I'm going to reestablish my border here. I'm going to make sure it's all smooth all the way around. And remove any of the flash that would be on the border, the extra wax. And it's hot. Be careful. Most metal finishers don't have fingerprints. Fingerprints. Okay, so now I'm going to put the big barrel stone back in there, and I'm going to regrind this border. Remember how when we waxed this, we had seal all the way around the outside of the frame. Remember we did that with a little bit of a green wax. Okay, now I want you to remember, when this is completed, about 1 to 2 millimeters of this entire border is going to be high polished, all smoothed out and highly polished. That's what we're going to be grinding for now. I just grab this and I round it off too. There's no sharp edges. These barrel stones are rounding right off, real nice and neat. Now, where we smoothed out and made the finish lines, remember how we flowed it real smooth around the finish lines? Now I do the same thing with this. I grind it about a millimeter or two all the way around the finish line, make it real smooth. I can't hear Scott.
He's talking to himself.
Oh.
So that's why you want to cook food.
I live with my wife. She does it all night long. We start talking.
I just feel like it.
Yeah.
While I'm drinking my beer.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna get a little light here. We'll blink on and off and talk to me, so I know. Okay, and one more here. Some of these I'm not getting the whole thing because the screws are in the way, but I don't care.
Well, you'll go back and
I'll
get
go
them.
back.
You just get what you can now.
Okay, now, and when they don't do this, they end up with a mess under there. So it just looks like shit. I take the extra time to make them look beautiful.
And how do you know you're not removing any metal?
I'm not pressing. I'm just dragging it. It's like waxing a car with, you don't do any pressure, you do it lightly gentle. Same thing. I don't know what's thing. Again, rapid movement. This is that tissue stop we have. Okay. Now a little bit under the muscle, just a tad. And under here. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over now, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. There's not too many spots that I can get under there, so I'm going to have to come back and get that place. Okay. Now the frame is successfully ground on the inside and outside. Now I'm going to take and change to a, I usually keep a 701 available. Even if they're worn out, they work pretty good for what I'm going to do next. I'll take the 701 and I'm going to drag this under the shank of the rest. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, it's a 701. You have it in your kit. Here's what the tooth looks like if you remember.
I have a
All right.
bigger one with the ball.
Scott, I'm explaining something here. Listen, we have an occlusal rest here, and then we have the strut down here. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
I am going to take that burr now, and I'm going to clean out this region right in here. Just that region, nothing else. Hey, Gary. You done?
What?
You're done.
Yeah,
Good. All right. I'm Robin.
Robin.
Was she pretty? She worked at Great Lakes. Let's make sure I'm pretty.
I
Okay.
don't think he heard you.
And
You're talking
you're
about
saying you're grinding out what's it called?
This is I'm going to remove the oxide that's
Okay,
under
oh,
there.
just the outside.
Or sometimes you're going to see microscopic nodules, bubbles. I got it on. I got it on. It's we're going to cast. So I'll take this burr, and I'm not going to take off any amount of value unless I have to. If it's a nodule, I'll take a nodule off. There's no nodule, I leave it on the underside. Well, take a look. You can see them.
Can I see that?
Yeah, I should show everybody. And I'm also going to grind the insides of the clash with another stone.
Who
Like-
wants it next?
Well, I went wrong.
You
Okay,
did.
you want me to
Let me see.
get that?
Yeah, go to Mike.
We'll start
That
there.
might-
Let's start over.
And I could, yeah. The first time you do it, it's not going to be as easy as it looks.
The 100th time you do it.
You get better.
Like anything.
When Brianna has grandkids, she'll be getting good at it.
Nice.
No, it's hard to do. It's not easy. Not everyone likes doing this. That's another thing. I
You can
really relax doing it. I like it.
You can
'Cause-
wear it.
But I don't have anybody talking to me when I'm doing it normally.
You said on the other side.
And that even when my wife used to work at the lab, I wouldn't let her
You
talk.
said you're doing this underneath?
I did it already.
Okay, he did it underneath, right there.
Just gentle. Now we're going to strip this. We're going to electro polish it in the back after I get ground.
Wow.
And
We're gonna
where is she?
electropolish it.
Oh, where is that? Can we take so we can bring this show you what we're going to look like when we get there?
We're gonna electropolish it.
Electro. It used to be called deplating. It's a stripping. We waxed the clasp out because we're going to put it back in and polish it a little bit more in the center. But you can see how it comes out after you electro polish it.
So we use it.
Disregard the appearance of the clasp because they're covered. Big wax. That's a good trick. When you electro polish these, it strips everything. It removes microscopically. That's what we're doing. Microscopically, when you look at a piece of metal, it looks like this. You look at a microscope. What we're doing at the machine in the back is we're going to cut all these points off and make the metal all one plane, which makes it shine.
Oh, I like
Isn't that cool?
picture.
That's simple. That's chemistry, but it's simple. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Did you catch that?
When you edit that, can you make my voice sound like George Clooney? Thanks.
I can't make you look like him, but I can make you sound like him.
Wow. I look like Adam Levine. Maroon 5.
Okay. Vacuum me up. Okay, now I'm going to start by doing the underside of the rest. Take a look. Just dragging it under the clamp, real nice and neat. Move on. I don't know if you guys understand this particular motor, not the poacher because it's spackly, but there's not much room under here for your hands. I can hardly get under there. It's like, holy cow. I got little hands. Can you imagine some big jerk like Joe trying to put his hands under this thing? Okay, so now I'm done with 701. I'm going to go back to that little burr again. And I'm going to dress the inside of the clasp by not taking off a lot of value. I'm going to just remove the outside oxide layer. Okay, here we go. I want to make sure this is all clean. Now lastly, I'm going to take this barrel stone and I'm going to remove the sharp edge on the bottom side of this clasp. You know, I would have a sharp edge on it. I just drag this over it ever so slightly to remove that sharp edge. And now what do you think I'm doing that for?
You don't tear the gum and stuff?
I'm doing it to preserve the enamel surface of the butler tooth. Now, not everybody does that. The reason why I do it is to preserve the enamel. Because the enamel gets, every time you put it in, I hope not.
No, you're fine.
Okay, one more class here. Alright, Scott, now I'm going to do the underside of this clasp. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing this little edge of the underside of the clasp? No.
Yeah.
Preserve the integrity of it.
They need like put like a little rubber sheet around the plant so that it
Now we're to where we can remove the screws. And I'll show you what we get. Now take a look at the insides of the classes and just take admire the amount of work it takes to get where we're trying to get, the final product, you know. Good idea, Ed. You do my lips? Oh, when you kiss me.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind. I'm a modern day man.
I can't kiss my
No, me neither. I can
My
kiss my
son and
kids.
daughter.
That's it. Yeah.
grandson. And pretty women.
I'd kiss anybody at this
kiss
point
her.
in my life.
I love kissing her glasses. The outside of her glasses, we have lip ice on. You ever see? Oh man, they can't get it off.
My lips are just very dry.
So
Yeah.
basically, you're going to do everything you can see
Anyway.
Yes,
first.
I have everything
And you
done
run
now.
your fingers out, you don't
Yeah,
feel anything.
I have everything done now. I'm going to remove the screws, and we're getting near the end. We're getting near the end.
And we're going to remove the screws with that tool?
No, no, this tool. Oh my God.
No, I know.
Hey,
The big
hey.
Okay, okay. Big disc.
Cutting disc. Yep.
Yes.
Now I want everybody to pay attention now. This next step.
This is like, ow!
I'm not going to cut the screws off at the distal extensions of the frame. Why do you think that?
Wait, I gotta write that.
Wait,
Wait,
what?
I'm not
I
gonna
never
cut 'em off.
sever the screws at the distal extension of the frame first.
Is it similar to the reason that when we go to screw it, just so that you can get in there and do it?
So
Okay.
when you're cutting it, you don't go through it and get into the actual.
I'm gonna say support.
Okay, when you cut the interior screws last, if it's the last ones you cut, you're heating the appliance, causing it to warp.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
So you have to
You
cut
cut
the
those
fronts
first.
and then the backs.
Okay.
That's a real good trick, and I learned that after bending 25, 30 frames.
Okay, so we do the front, then the back.
Cut the front first.
Cut
And then I
these.
want you to show me which ones those are.
And also, in addition to that, because I think I screwed this, I screwed part of it. My screw joints are very small. I can cut right through and I'm through it. The ones we did the other day, the ones that belong to Sienna, remember? I keep calling you Savannah, but it's like,
What's that?
they were real
Totally
big, and
forget
it took me a long time to cut through them.
And remember, there's still a snake head, they go smaller to bigger?
Yeah,
That was-
this
yeah.
is what I was
Can
trying
you
to
show me which
emphasize.
ones you cut first?
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna do it as I was pointing it out. I have John's pencil. I'm gonna take and I'm gonna cut the ones up at the anterior part
Okay,
first before I cut the
excellent.
posteriors.
Okay, anterior part. Okay, excellent.
If you'll notice, I keep reaching up here to turn this on.
So now we go back to the big.
Back to the big wheel. And now sometimes you have to turn this all different directions to get at these screws, but do what you can to get in there. And I try to get them as close to the appliance as I can without doing any damage. I noticed the other day Christian had one that he was about 25 feet away from the connection. And he's going to grind that all out. I said, oh man.
There's a lot of people under the bus.
I tell you this all for effect, you know, like Christian.
Wow, look at it smoke.
That smokes, it's hot. If you touch this after you cut them, you're gonna burn your finger good. So you try not to do that. Now I'm getting as close to the frame as possible without doing damage. And you notice if that snags like that, they can pull it out of your hand. So
So I shouldn't be standing right here. then.
open them up. No, I won't. There you go. Now one more and it's severed.
Hey, you went through them fast.
Be careful.
I'm careful.
You know, that was very close to that class.
Okay, so watch what I do.
Rip it off.
Now, remember this, that's the smell you were asking me. See? It's like a gas. I'm not going to dip it. I don't choose
No,
the smell.
that's smell.
Enjoy the smell. It's like napalm.
Ollie,
Is that what that's?
It's disgusting.
yeah, I was
So
supposed
now
to-
I'm dipping. Now I'm going to show you. I'm going to pass this around. I want you to see how close I tried to get to this to sever the appliance. Michael. It's dipped.
Think you're always supposed to rinse your mouth before you drink after you do this. For real.
You're supposed to drink lemon water too.
For real. No joking. You're
Alright.
supposed to, because it's in
It
our mouth.
helps
You're
break
supposed to
down like
you're
Oh,
supposed
yeah.
to
chips
s-
and everything.
I,
drink
know-
and
I,
spit.
did not know that.
Always rinse
That's
and
what
spit
Sarah
before
told
you
us.
drink.
I've,
After you do
I've
this.
been doing this for over 50 years, and I did not know that. Thank you.
Always spit.
And never wipe your glasses off with it.
We can
Oh,
always
yeah,
make
you'll
new
scratch
teeth.
it.
We
Wash it.
can't
They
make
scratch.
new livers and kidneys.
Yeah, no, they've proven
Right?
it.
Yeah.
I wear masks.
I was.
John immediately checks his glasses.
That was quick.
Can I entertain this with you? Is when the first time you grind a frame, if it takes you 2 hours, don't get upset. It might. Takes you 3 hours, start getting upset. No, it could take you a long time the first couple times you do it. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for
hours
the technique. I want you to learn the technique. I don't care if you get perfect at that stage.
Now I
You
can
cut
put
all
it in,
your
right?
fast off.
Sienna?
Here's my nub. Instead
It's not quite your mouth, so it might.
How do you know?
So these
Maybe
are,
me and Sienna had something going on that she
I
did
use
a
this
mold for my
function.
mouth.
Nope.
I'm just kidding. That would be cool though.
You gotta
Yeah,
remind
yeah.
me the night before.
How do you
Now, when I finish
Why you
grinding
gotta
this
be
down a
like
little
that?
bit,
I'm just saying, it has to be a very
They
specific
hit
mouth.
Why you gotta be like that?
this is going to be the stripper frame.
I mean-
45 minutes.
Let's get this left.
No, as soon as I gotta do the
Yeah,
center.
go ahead, come on. Come out.
Do this. The disc. Hmm?
She's peeing her nutty
The guy
case.
left. Give me my coffee so I'll just or out of the microwave.
He's gonna like casually stroll
I,
back in.
did you believe I did the whole thing without a drink?